What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Zachary Reality. It is Zachary Reality, and we are here live on a Tuesday, Election Day, with Kristyn Burtt to chat all things Dancing with the Stars, since we do not have a new episode tonight. Kristyn, how are you doing today?
Doing great. This is kind of fun since we don't have a new Dancing with the Stars episode. It's a good way to kind of fill the time.
I'm really sad we don't have a new episode tonight, but of course, it's probably nice for the pros and the stars to get a week break.
I think it's probably good for a lot of them to just kind of catch their breath, rest their bodies, even though they are still rehearsing. They're going to be able to really have their dance for next week under their feet. And they're going to have to do that because the judges are now going to expect 2 weeks of rehearsal, that it should look really polished by next week.
For sure. And I also saw that Carrie Ann went on Good Morning America yesterday or this week, and she said that they're going to have to do a 5-minute dance at the same time.
Yeah, the Insta dance. Now we haven't seen this in quite a while, but you like learn it while the show is going on and then perform it. And this is really one of those situations that is the cream's going to rise to the top on a situation like that. It's going to be the people who understand and can memorize choreography very quickly. I'm sure what's going to happen is that the pros will pull a little like snippets of routines from the past weeks and kind of put them all together to help their contestant do as best as they can. But that is really a test of everyone's choreographic memorization skills.
Yeah, and I think at this point, with only 6 couples left, they've all been training for multiple months. And even if they didn't have dance experience before the show, they've all gotten pretty good. The competition is really stiff. So I think they can handle it.
I think they can. I think this will rattle a couple of people's nerves, perhaps. And sometimes not necessarily who you expect. Sometimes you might expect someone to be rock solid in a challenge like this. But sometimes nerves get the best of you in the most unusual situations. The Insta dance is always an unusual situation.
Ooh, I cannot wait. Well, just to kind of set it back a little bit, everybody, welcome for joining. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to give this live stream a big thumbs up. Go follow Kristyn on Twitter, on Instagram. She is a Dancing with the Stars expert. And I can't say I'm an expert, but I do talk about the show a lot. So I'm glad that we are teaming up and then I can get your OG knowledge of, the whole show as far as what's been going on in the past multiple decades and how it kind of relates to my new knowledge, my Gen Z TikTok knowledge of the show. So I'm really glad to chat with you today. Can you tell me how you started covering the show and why you became so passionate about it?
Sure. I mean, I have followed the show since the first season, but going back to 2012, I was working with Maria Menounos's AfterBuzz TV. A lot of people are very familiar with this. And me and Sari Serrano covered the All-Star season 15. Just the two of us that very first season. It was still when we had result shows. So the show was on Mondays and Tuesdays, and we would cover both of those shows. There was a lot more dancing, to be honest, because the first night was all competition. And then the second night was the result show of who got voted out, plus a lot of celebrities would come and sing their songs and the pros would dance to it. It was like a supersized type of situation. By the time we hit season 16, we had Anna Trebunskaya, who was a Dancing with the Stars pro, who was not asked back that season, come and join us on the panel. And Jake Dupree also came and joined us. And like the four of us were a really tight unit for a long time. And having Anna's insight was incredible. Jake is also a dancer. Suri was a dancer. I was a dancer. So we really had great chemistry. We didn't always agree. And I think that's what also made the panel fun for everyone because, while one of us might have Derek at the time, another person would have liked Max and Val. And at the time it was Team Shmirkovsky versus Mark and Derek at the time. So the fan base was really divided in those two. It was a fun era, but it was also a very passionate and heated discussion on Twitter.
Well, you want to have, panelists who don't always agree, because then there could be that back and forth. And as long as everyone respects each other's opinions, then it should, you could make some good, recap shows and stuff like that. Now, back in the day when they did the results show, was that also a 2-hour show as well?
It was a 1-hour show. So if I remember correctly, it was 8 to 10 on Mondays and then 9 p.m. on Tuesday. So it was 9 to 10 p.m. And that's how we would get the results. But also voting was open to the West Coast. It's open now in that I can go and blindly vote at 5 p.m. here, but we were able to watch the show on Monday and then voting would be open till let's say 6 a.m. or 9 a.m. on the West Coast. and then they would close the votes and
Mhm.
then you could find out the results on that Tuesday,
Yeah.
which is a lot better because, you know, for people on the West Coast, what are we voting for? We don't know unless you're live in the studio or you're lucky enough to be on the East Coast that night watching, you know, you're on vacation or something. It's a strange phenomenon now.
I know. Because like I feel like I like to vote for whoever I actually think did the best that night. And like, of course, people are going to have their favorites, but a lot of fans do vote based on whose dance they like the best for that night. And I think that there could be like a way to maybe fix that. They did have Disney Plus for a year where we got to watch it at 5 o'clock. So I felt like sometimes on the West Coast, we do have an advantage. Even on Netflix, some shows that drop at 12 in New York, they drop at 9 o'clock here. So sometimes it works in our advantage, but other times I often feel behind.
It's true. I mean, we're so lucky that we get the Super Bowl early, we get the Oscars and the primetime Emmys. But I also want to say that a lot of people ask why, even though it's on Disney Plus and it's on ABC, why we can't at least just get Disney Plus at 5 p.m. And I actually have an
Mhm.
answer for that. Someone gave it to me
Tell me.
within the ABC family. And that is that there is an agreement with ABC affiliates, and these are all the locally owned ABC stations across the country, that it has to air first and live on ABC, or obviously on the West Coast, it's live to tape. They can't sort of like take that fan base away and just put it on Disney Plus if it's also airing on ABC. So because of the complicated legal agreements with ABC affiliates, as long as Dancing with the Stars is on ABC, it has to be at the scheduled prime time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I get it. There are a lot of creators online who post clips of the show. I mean, there's, some guy on TikTok who posts every dance right away, and on Twitter they post them immediately. I don't know how they get such clear footage, but I do feel like I'm able to watch the show on social media at 5 o'clock PST.
Yes, there are some illegal YouTube feeds that I see.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, let me take a peek. I don't
We
mind.
have a question for you from Syed Ali Hassan tuning in. Can we have an AfterBuzz reunion with Kristyn, Jake, Suri, and Anna, please?
That would be so great. Well, Jake is all over the globe these days. It is rare to have Jake in Los Angeles, but maybe if I can get Jake into LA, or when I find out their schedule, we can probably arrange that because Suri and Anna are also still here in LA. I think everyone will also remember Jules filled in for a season, I think, when Jake was out, and Jules Talker is still here. And yeah, so that would be kind of fun having all of them
Mhm.
together.
I actually used to be at AfterBuzz as well, but I moved here in 2019 and I started AfterBuzz in 2020, and then the pandemic shut down. So we did I remember the 8-hour training day or whatever orientation, and then as soon as we were going to do our first show, it was already on Zoom.
Oh
Mhm.
no. The real height of AfterBuzz was not, there were studios in North Hollywood, which is the ones you went to. When it was in Encino, and I don't know if you ever heard the lore of AfterBuzz when it was in Encino. It was in a house, and
Oh.
they reformatted a house. They renovated it. So there were, let's see, one, two, I'm just trying to count off that. I'm going to say 4 studios all together. And there was a living room in the front of the house and a photo booth. And
Mm.
what would happen is the guests would stay because it was a really comfortable, cozy area. And for Dancing with the Stars, that is where we got all of our scoop, because our guests would come and they would hang out, and then we would hear stuff that, you couldn't necessarily air, or we would hear things
Mhm.
like, hey, this is what's going to happen next week. And then we'd go on the next day with our results shows and talk about the scoop that we got. When we moved to North Hollywood, it was more of it just wasn't as comfortable. They had tables, and it was these stools, and everyone just kind of dodged out of town the second the show was over. So it kind of ruined that cozy atmosphere. Oh, and Maria Menounos' mother, late mother, rest in peace. She was so sweet. She used to cook for us in the AfterBuzz
Oh,
kitchen.
that's
So we'd
nice.
come out and there were snacks. It always
Mm.
smelled good. It was a really sweet environment. And those were the best days of AfterBuzz.
Mhm. It's like a content house, but
It
for
was.
entertainment hosts. Imagine that now, especially with TikTok and how social media has changed. But that's amazing. Yeah, I've seen some of your clips from AfterBuzz. I'm so sad I didn't get to, go into the studio. It would have been so much fun. But hey, look at where we all are now. And for people who don't know, we've actually met a few times, me and you. We've met at the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives premiere. We met at the Traders event. What are some of your other favorite reality shows that you cover and talk about?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Traders, I think season 2, I'm almost afraid of, like, going on and seeing,
What's
like, what
next?
season 3, because I love season 2 so much. It was just
Mm.
perfectly cast. And for people who don't know, by the way, Dina Katz, who is the executive, producer over at Dancing with the Stars, also casts traders. You'll
Ah.
see a lot of crossover and things like that. You know, she also does Masked Singer, she did Masked Dancer, she did Celebrity Big Brother. So if you notice that there is a pipeline between Dancing with the Stars and some of these shows.
Mm. Yeah, they
You
had
know,
Maxim on last season.
that's right. I was hoping we would get somebody else from Dancing with the Stars on Traders. You know,
Mm.
I do think that Emma Slater would be great at that game because
Mm.
she's social and sweet, but I think that she could really get herself far, whether she was a faithful or a traitor, because everybody loves her.
Yeah, yeah. I like when they take one person from each franchise. I feel like they have so many housewives, and they even released, the next season's cast. There's like 4 or 5 housewives up there. There's so many Bravo people. It almost takes up too much room, especially when they already know each other too well. But I'm sure Trados will be good anyway, because last season was phenomenal. And what did you think of seeing Phaedra on Dancing with the Stars, especially after loving her on Traders?
I love seeing Phaedra on Traders. I think she wound up exactly where I thought she was going to land. Housewives have a tendency to make it like just beyond the halfway mark, and then they usually get voted out. So we haven't seen anyone yet make it to that finale. I know Phaedra was really trying, but you know what? I
Mm.
love her. There is just something about her personality. She's just like, I'm going to be a mortician, and I'll be a reality star, and I'll be a lawyer, and I'll be a mom. And there's just something about her personality that is just so much fun to watch. And, you know, dancing wasn't, maybe her strongest talent, but
Mhm.
you know what? I think she showed her talents in Traders the big time.
Yeah, you can't be the best at every show, and she was the best on The Traitors. She was the most entertaining, but on Dancing with the Stars, like, she wasn't gonna be the best because you just can't thrive in every single show.
No, you can't. And I think what a lot of people don't realize when they come on Dancing with the Stars, they're like, it's great. I'll come on Dancing with the Stars. I'll lose some weight, or maybe I'll give a little boost to my career, is the mental and emotional aspect to the show. You are exhausted as you start doing 2 dances a week. Your body hurts. You're dancing 6, 7 days a week. There's very little downtime with this particular show. And you're
Mhm.
going to do better the more that you just open yourself up and you be raw and vulnerable to that audience, because they're able to see the real you. The more you keep that facade up, the less likely they are to vote for you.
Mhm. Yeah, it's definitely about, like, your improvement every week, but it's also about making that connection with the audience and the fans at home. Out of everyone who left already, is there anyone you wish you would have made it farther this season? Any early eliminees that you really were sad to see go?
Well, curiously enough, I think that Tori Spelling got a raw deal going out week 1. I feel like she probably had more to show us. When they do a double elimination in that, well, technically it was the second week, but I
Mhm.
feel like you're just like, whoa, we barely knew you. And of course, we all know Tori Spelling, but I feel like she has more of a story to tell, and she would have been able to do that through dance, and also Brooks. And I'm gonna say this, I think Brooks should have been paired with a different pro, because to
Really?
me, and I'm going to say this, they are, Gleb and Brooks were like the sexiest, hottest couple. I was there week 1, and you're like, oh my God, the two of them are so good looking and amazing and beautiful. But I think it was too obvious of a pairing. So I would have wanted to put her with somebody else who was really just going to get away from like, oh, we're just going to do the sexy choreography every single week, and really get into the aspect of like teaching her to dance. Cause I think she had some really beautiful lines as a model. Of course, she's going to go have those long limbs. And I think we missed out on that opportunity of seeing her have improvement in her dancing and in her movements.
Mm.
Obviously, we got the TikTok story of the century this season with the two of them. So, I mean,
Mhm.
there's the argument there too that they brought a lot of eyeballs to the show.
They definitely did, and I do wanna talk a little bit about the speculation with them, but as far as the question I asked, I wanna answer it too. I would have liked to see more of Anna Delvey. I thought she was so entertaining. Obviously, do not agree with, what she did, but she served her time. I thought she was so funny, and I would have loved to see Ezra go a lot farther as well, since it was his first season as a pro. So I feel like we were robbed of seeing them just last a couple more weeks and seeing their story unfold.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I feel like had Anna been on a season, I'm going to say prior to like season 29, she probably would have lasted longer.
Mm,
The older audience was a little bit more patient with some of the criminals we've had on the show.
mhm,
Um, and I feel like Gen Z and even Alpha Gen, because Alpha Gen is voting as well, and they're younger. I mean, they're like 12 and under. And
mm,
they have less patience for that. And they're
mm.
like, we're not going to reward people who do bad things, even though there could be a comeback story here and an
Mhm,
opportunity for a second chance. But it's interesting to see the tide turn and everything sort of shift with new eyeballs on the show.
mhm. And it'll be fun to see them come back at the finale. I mean, that will be really great to kind of see everyone come back together and see where Anna is now, and Tori and Phaedra, and also with Brooks and Gleb. I mean, he said that he broke up with her after the
Via text.
show via text. There was some sort
No.
of showmance. What happened? Why did he what did he say?
I just know that he said he broke up with her via text, and I was like, "Is that the way to do it? You're 40 years old. Come on, dude. Like, pick up the phone." I think that it'll be interesting because there's the question of like, are they just totally playing us, and are they still together because they're swearing that they're not in the same location at the same time? But oh, I feel like they played into this PR story showmance quite a bit.
Oh, for sure. I didn't feel like they were never, like, exclusively dating. I think they were just, like, hooking up and having fun, and it was a showmance. And I feel like now that the it's over, like, it's over, but I feel like they're still on good terms. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that they're fighting the way it looks like on TikTok. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They're playing into it. They're having fun with that, and they should because you know what? People are watching and people are commenting, and whether it's good or bad, you know what? At this point, they want that.
just get the views, like, get your followers up, and your life will be a little bit easier. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like now's the time. Let's go down the final 6. So we have 6 couples left: Brandon and Chandler, Joey and Jenna, Ilona and Alan, Rylee and Steven, Danny and Dwight, and, um, Danny and Witney. Let's talk about the final 6. Who do we think is going to win? Who do we think is going to go home next week? I want to get your hot takes. Let's start off with Brandon and Chandler.
This couple has my heart because, you know, Chandler came in obviously with probably the strongest foundation for ballroom dance. And, you know, people are going to argue, well, she's had dance training before. You know, a majority of people have had, if they're an actor, they've come in with dance training. We argue this every single season, but I want
Mhm,
to say, you know, ballroom is a totally different beast. I'm someone who's had a lot of dance training and I've gone in to take ballroom classes and I'm like, oh my gosh, like learning the jive is so different than taking a ballet or a jazz class. You're constantly jumping on the ball of your feet, which is totally the opposite of ballet. Ballet, you always land onto your heel, so that
mhm,
your calves are on fire when you're learning something like this. And you have to, you know, oftentimes you'll hear the judges say, you know, that's a heel lead, that's a toe lead on this dance. And very rarely in dance do you do a heel lead, maybe in tap. But
mhm.
that's what makes it like it messes with your brain sometimes. So I get that the judges, particularly Carrie Ann, are hard on her because they want to push her and they want to see. They've already seen her 110%, but they want to see her go 150%. But again, I do agree with Chandler when she's asking, like, give me the specifics to go back to the rehearsal studio and work on these things. What are those details? And that is a fair ask. And she did not get that question answered on the last show. So I
Mm.
hope for them that they push it all the way to the finale. I get a little concerned about them because the judges are always like a little bit like, well, even though she's out dancing almost everybody that's left in the competition.
Yeah, yeah. I think she's gonna go the final 4 for sure, the finale. Um, I mean, I would hope that she would win if I mean, there's so many great people, like, I don't know if I have, like, one person that I specifically want to win, but I really like watching them, and I do think she has dance experience, but I think, like you said, we argue that every season. Charlie D'Amelio won, for God's sake, so we'll see. Is there anyone you think is on the chopping block for next week?
I do think that, and people are going to say, what? I do think Dwight, after coming off of an incredible Halloween week, I do
He
think
did
no one knows how to,
good.
you know, nobody knows how to choreograph a Halloween week dance better than Danny, who's on the show. Because we know we can argue Mark Ballas as also like the king of the Halloween dance, but I think that she has to show something different with him. We know that Dwight can do lifts. We know that Dwight can perform. He is a showman, and I love that about him. Now I want to see some of those refinements because now we have 2 weeks to rehearse his next dance, and I want to see some of those technical refinements. And that I know Danny will work that in the studio, but can he show up and remember all of those? Because he's been a little late to rehearsals and things like that. He hasn't been the most disciplined student that is in the cast this season.
He has done pretty well the last couple of weeks, but I do feel like a lot of people on Twitter are kind of thinking that he has been the weak link and someone that could have been in the conversation of going home the last couple of weeks. But then just last week, he was called first. He also wowed everybody, you know, during dedication night when his kids were there. So I think he's earned his spot. It's definitely a challenge for them to dance with the height difference. You can tell by this picture, she's literally on a whole box. I do think they're going to go home next week, though.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm going to call anyone, I feel like they would probably be in my number one spot for elimination, unless, and listen, never, ever, ever count Daniella out ever, because if she has, you know, something so different in her box of tricks, then it's quite possible then he then makes it into the semifinals and people go, oh my gosh, how is that possible? It is possible with Danny for sure, as your pro.
Yeah. Let's talk about Joey and Jenna. So he is a huge fan favorite from The Bachelor. People are loving him and Kelsey a lot. You know, they just got off their season earlier this year. So he has a lot of fans. Jenna's also a super popular dancer. They've been at the top of the leaderboard pretty much the whole season. They got 2 10s last week. They've gotten a lot of 9s. He's been doing really well. What have your thoughts been watching them?
This is his mirror ball to lose, to be honest, at this point, at this stage of the game. Chandler obviously is his competitor here. But you know, when you have the Bachelor Nation fan base in your back pocket, and remember, we've lost Jen Tran at this point. And I knew this. I said at some point, Bachelor Nation is going to pick their winner. And in terms of like, are we going to keep on voting for Jen all the way, or are we going to keep on voting for Joey all the way? And they made their decision, and it is Joey. And you know, Jenna, another strong choreographer, strong technique as well. You know, Joey seems to be really, really picking up on the technique. He's got nice lines. He's got good frame. So they have to keep that momentum up. I am sure Jenna is already planning their freestyle, which I have high hopes for. I have high expectations, honestly, because she can do this and he can do this. But the pressure is on them. And that means that the judges are going to start getting really like looking at little tiny things on them. And he has to keep his mental game up.
There's never been a Bachelor that has won the show before.
Correct.
Ever. Caitlin Bristol won, Hannah Brown won. So 2 Bachelorettes. And didn't Melissa Rycroft win too?
She did.
So the Bachelorettes usually do really well. Charity made it to the final 4, but the Bachelors don't make it as far. I mean, there was
no,
Matt
they
James.
Don't. This
Joe.
would be a big thing. And I think, you know, also it will show the strength of Bachelor Nation. But I'll be curious if he does win, and where we've had wins like Melissa and Hannah and Caitlin, I'd be curious to see if the fan base decides that we need a break from Bachelor Nation for a while. I'd be curious.
As far as on Dancing with the Stars. I don't know. The shows are so intertwined.
They are. And maybe it's an opportunity for a Golden Bachelor or Bachelorette contestant to come in, because that would at least be different in terms of the category. Just changes it up a little bit.
Yeah, I think they just like pick whoever is the most relevant and popular in Bachelor Nation of the year, and that's who they kind of pick for Dancing with the Stars. Joey also was like the most popular Bachelor we've had in a while, so we haven't had a Bachelor as beloved as Joey in like at least 5 years. So I think that's also why he's doing so well on Dancing, because people want to root for him.
Yeah, he seems adorable. His fiance is adorable. So it is one of those things. He's very likable, and we know that likability goes a long way in this show.
Well, he also has hidden talents. I mean, he's been doing flips. He's been doing some tricks. I mean, he's better than I think we thought he would be doing. And I think he does have a real chance to win. So we'll see. But he also has tough competition in Ilona and Allen, because her popularity is through the roof. What do you think of this duo?
God, I love Ilona so much. In fact, I wanted her to be on Dancing with the Stars after Tokyo 2020, which was technically in 2021, of course, because of the pandemic. And I was so surprised that they didn't cast her, but was delighted that they did this time around after the Olympics. But there is something about Ilona whether she doesn't have the best week or she has the best week, you're still rooting for her the same amount. You love her still no matter what, because you know her work ethic is like unbelievable. You know her heart is fully in this. I love that the rugby team is behind her. It's not that situation where she's the breakout star of the team. You can see that, you know, she appreciates having the team behind her, but they're a team. It's not just like I'm the superstar and these are the other athletes. We saw that during, you know, most memorable year, whatever the dedication week, whatever they called it. But she is not the strongest dancer if you compare her to, say, Chandler or Joey. But I do think that there's a spot in the finale for her, and people want to see her there, and people are going to vote for her.
Well, yeah, she got all 8s last week. She was at the bottom of the leaderboard. She had 24, and then the person who was like next to her had 28. So she was definitely behind. But I think that, you know, she got enough fan votes, and if enough fan votes, they could outweigh the judges' scores. So I definitely think we'll see her in the top 4, which like leads me to believe like who else is not going to make it. Let's talk about Rylee and Steven. I mean, there's been a lot of love for them, but what do we think? Could they be cut? Or do you think
they could be? Honestly, they could be. And that is a reality. And, you know, the moment that Steven was announced as a contestant, I'm like, they're 100% going to pair him with Rylee. I knew that right away. And, you know, they're young, they're fun, their TikToks are so cute. Rylee has brought such a bright light to the show, and I really appreciate her presence. I think we've seen some of Steven's limitations in terms of like, you know, men's gymnastics is so different than women's gymnastics. Women's gymnastics obviously has the floor component where they dance, and men on floor, it's more like a structure. It's a geometric sort of design, and he doesn't do floor. He does pommel horse. So he's more on his hands than he is on his feet, which is really interesting. So I think that he's been very challenged by Dancing with the Stars and the choreography. So I really do think that he is going to have to step it up this next week. They have been in the bottom 3 several times now. I'm sure for them, they understand what's at stake at this point. They have the ability to do it, but he is going to have, if he already thought he was working hard, he's going to have to work extra hard because of all of the other people who are, you know, right there leading the pack.
Yeah, they've been really fun to watch this season. They have a great friendship. And I remember I told you I really wanted Rylee to have like a single partner because she's one of the few single people on the show. And I like a showmance, but we got the showmance this year with Brooks and Gleb. So I think it worked out for Rylee to have, you know, just a friend that she can dance with. She's still new to the show. People love watching her and rooting for her. And she also just went public. She announced she has a new boyfriend on the USC football team.
Yes. And I love that. Maybe it'll keep her in LA a little bit, because I think I've said this about Rylee. If she wants to do the whole Los Angeles, you know, superstar kind of thing, because I know she lives in Utah, she has the ability to do so. And any single high power Hollywood talent agency would snap her up in seconds. CAA, WME, all of the big talent agencies, they would love to represent her if she wants that.
I think Rylee has a long career ahead of her. I think she's going to be booked on this show and then doing the tour for a long time. And I know she just bought a house in Utah and she loves her family. So I don't think she's in a rush to become the most famous influencer in the world. Like, I feel like she has time for that. She's 19.
She's a baby.
But I do want to see her win a mirror ball one day. But I don't think it's going to happen this year.
I don't think it's this season. And I think that that's okay too, because she is one of the rare pros who came in without going to Troop. And Troop is always a great training ground. So, you know, she's been out there in the spotlight right off the bat. Of course, she has her sister, Lindsay Arnold, to lean on and ask questions to. But at the same time, this gives her a couple of seasons under her belt before she's sort of thrust into a mirror ball win. And then the expectations get even higher. And this is okay. There's nothing wrong about any of this, because she's done well. She did well with Harry and she's doing well with Steven. And it's all a big win.
Well, yeah, she made it top 6 last year. So she's back in the top 6 this year. Maybe she'll be in the top 5. We'll see. Our last couple to chat about is Danny and Witney. And I must say, I think this is actually my favorite couple just from watching the show. I love their dances every week. I think he is so fun to watch. And she's obviously amazing to watch. I'm glad that she's back. What are your thoughts on them?
This is the couple I kept on saying, don't count Witney out. We know Witney off for a few seasons, and then having her come back is such a big deal because she's a great choreographer. She's a great performer. She knows what it takes to get her contestant not only to the finale, but also to the win. Now, Danny does have it. If you watch him over the last couple of weeks, there's a couple of frame issues and things like that that they need to work on. And that'll be sort of the thing in the next couple of weeks to really focus in on and hone those skills. Because again, he's another one who is a huge performer and really able to make it to that finale. And I think that they can do it.
If they make it to the finale, it could be Danny and Witney, Alan and Ilona, Chandler and Brandon, and Joey and Jenna. And that means Rylee and Steven and Dwight and Danny would be the next to go.
It's possible. And I think that this is a male contestant year to win.
Me too.
We just get those feelings like, okay, this is a female year. And I don't know why we always feel that, but I feel like that's kind of the narrative that the show is sort of pushing, and you can kind of hear it in the judging and in the comments. So I do think that's why I say this is Joey's Mirror Ball trophy to win or to lose.
Or it could go to Danny.
Could go to Danny. I think that Joey has that edge. And the Bachelor Nation fan base already gives you a huge step up.
Danny's been doing a lot of flips and a lot of lifts. I mean, he's so hot to watch. He's so good. How many seasons did Witney take off? Just 1 or 2?
2, I believe.
Okay.
And the good thing about Witney is that she also knows how to pace her contestant well, so that you do see that natural improvement from week to week. And that is something she's very good at.
We've seen that with Danny, for sure.
Oh, 100%. And that's what I love about him, because for the first couple of weeks, you're like, he's okay. He's fine. And then all of a sudden he had his breakout week and you're like, yes, that's a contender.
Do you have like a favorite couple that you're rooting for? Or are you kind of just like, you cover the show, so you're a little unbiased about it and you just kind of want to see everyone succeed and,
I want I hope people have a good experience, because you do hear, sometimes people leave the show and then they talk seriously about what they really felt like, like, okay, the show was great, but it was one of those situations where maybe I didn't get along with my pro, and you hear about that later on. And the best thing is to have those contestants who really come in and come back year after year, because, Dancing with the Stars is family. I hate hearing when a contestant had a really hard time and they didn't feel like they had the support behind the scenes. And that's not necessarily on the pro, it's on the production itself. I think, we've heard from Charity even just saying, hey, there was a lot of social media bullying going on the actual Dancing with the Stars account. Why wasn't that removed? Why wasn't it addressed? That type of support, I think, is needed, like from a full 360 perspective. We got to remember the pros are not mental health specialists. So that mental health support should come from behind the scenes on the production side.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll say that my favorite is Danny and Witney, just from watching the show, being like, who have I enjoyed most watching this season? Because I would have been a huge fan of Joey and Jen going into it, but I just feel like Danny and Witney as a duo have really won me over with all their dances. They won on TikTok this season. They did the viral leg moment. I mean, that's gotten everyone talking.
So good. And I love seeing so many people doing it. They're doing it with their kids. They're doing it with their partners. I've seen people do it with like their pets. I mean, as a joke, they're not like peeling their pet off the floor, but it really is kind of amazing how it went so viral. And these are the moments, I'll tell you, like Dancing with the Stars TikTok has really helped rejuvenate the show. And I've said this before, but the show was just surviving ahead of, I would say, about season 29, season 30, and now it is thriving. So some of the changes that they've made have really improved the show and brought new eyeballs to the show, which is incredible.
Oh, for sure. I feel like the show's gotten so popular over the last few years. Let's talk about the judges. So Carrie-Anne has been getting a lot of flack this season, especially the last couple of weeks. I do feel like sometimes we all want a villain, even if they're not actually a villain. And, Tyra Banks kind of filled that void for a lot of people. So I feel like they're maybe putting that on Carrie-Anne. What are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, this one's tough. And I think that there's been, the panel in general has been a little bit messy in terms of like what they really want the contestants to focus in on. And sometimes I feel like Derek and Bruno just agree on everything, and then Carrie-Anne then looks like the bad guy. And I think that when we had Mark Malice come in, he really started like sharpened the focus on what people need to do and really talked in layman's terms about like, hey, you know what? This is what you need to work on. It looks like this, stands up, shows it really quick. And I'll say it right here and now. I think that was Mark Ballas's audition. Whether Mark Ballas knew he was auditioning, I think from a production side, they were definitely looking at him as a possible future judge on the panel. And I don't know what that looks like in the future. Nobody wants anyone just like fired. Change is hard.
Yeah.
We've seen the hard change when Tom and Aaron left and Tyra came in. But something needs to be adjusted with the judging panel. There's too much noise. Carrie Ann, her appearance, if you haven't seen it, I know you saw it, but if any of your viewers haven't seen it, it was great. She was very open to the criticism. She said, you know, I do listen to it because sometimes I learn something. And I thought that was wonderful. And I think that she probably knows that with a younger audience, the judging panel has been relatively untouched in terms of Carrie Ann and Bruno being on there since the beginning. I would feel a little bit in jeopardy if I were her too. So her saying, you know what, I'm open to criticism and I'm listening and I'm learning too is great.
Well, they can't have an all-male panel if they get rid of Carrie Ann. And I mean, I like that Carrie Ann she gives the tough advice and she doesn't mind the booze. Like she has fun with it. So who knows what will happen in the future. I also like having 3 judges. I think it's fun. It gives an opportunity to have new guest judges each week, you know, celebrity judges, old dancers. So I don't know if they should necessarily add someone or what they should do.
Add. We've done 4. It's too much. It's fine to bring in a guest every once in a while, but 3 judges is the number. It can't be an all-male panel, but it does open the door and the speculation, would a former female pro come on and be a judge? And that conversation has yet to be had because we haven't seen anyone other than Julianne be on that panel. So, I mean, I know Cheryl's put her name in the mix. Sharna would love to do it. Anna Trebinskaya would be fabulous. Yeah, Lindsay Arnold. There'd be so many people who are qualified and would be great at it. And if we start seeing someone come in as a guest star, either this season or a future season, I'd be like, that's an audition.
Yeah, I'm sure. I would love for Lindsay Arnold to do a guest judge, like just once. I think that would be really fun.
My dream for Lindsay is actually for them to bring back Trios Week and for her to perform with Rylee and her contestant for Trios Week, because I think that would be so fun and so full circle.
Yeah, I love Julianne as the host and Alfonso. I think they do a really good job. I mean, she's perfect at it. And I think so many fans were mad at Tyra because like she is the modeling queen. She's not the dancing queen. With Julianne, it just makes so much sense for her to be representing the show and be the face of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I will always miss Tom and Aaron. I will say though, after Tyra, this is the perfect sort of next gen hosts with Alfonso and Julianne. Julianne's been getting some weird criticism for her work, like behind the scenes, but I'm like, just give her time. Live TV is hard. I don't think people understand that. You've got people talking in your ear. You've got time constraints. You've got questions to ask, and you have to be in the moment. You have to be listening and asking at the same time. And she will like get there and be in her 100% confidence, but their dynamic and their chemistry is perfect. It's exactly where the show needs to be for those hosts.
So how many weeks we got left? We have 3 or 2? 3.
3. We've got the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th.
Okay, so next week, one person will go. Week after, one more. And then the week after that is the finale. And I mean, before I let you go, I mean, who do we think is going to be there? What is your final prediction?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's going to be, if they're going to do a 4-person finale, because sometimes it's 3-person, it's been 5, like they mix it up. So they may just throw us for a loop in the next few weeks. And I would definitely stay open to that possible surprise for sure. For me, I would like to see Ilona in the finale, for sure Chandler, for sure Joey, and that final spot if we're going to do a 4-person finale. I think Witney's got a statement to make with a freestyle.
I agree. I definitely agree. And I think that Dwight and Danny will probably go next week and Rylee and Stephen maybe the week after. I am so excited to see what happens. I think the final few episodes of any show is always the most exciting because you've been invested all season and you're finally going to get that answer of like who's going to win, who's going to lose, and how is it all going to happen.
Yes, and next week is the 500th episode of Dancing with the Stars, which is incredible in this landscape of television, where we get like, 6 episodes for a scripted series, 8 episodes these days. fact that they've hit 500 is really sweet, and they're bringing back, former pros and contestants. So I think we'll see a lot of people in the audience.
Oh my God, so much fun. Absolutely cannot wait. If you guys have not followed Kristyn on Twitter, on Instagram, go do that right now. I will leave her links down below. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, especially on this crazy election day. It was a fun way to sort of bide the time until we wait for next week.
I know, and we're going to find out who the president is any day now. So I'm sure that's all everyone's going to be talking about all week. So hopefully we gave you guys a little bit of an escape if you were missing Dancing with the Stars on this Tuesday.
Little joy.
Yes. All right. Well, I will chat with you soon. So thanks for being here. And thank you all so much for watching and listening. Give this video a thumbs up. Do not forget to hit subscribe. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.